a special meeting on the members' briefing of the English Devolution White Paper. I'd like to wish you all a Happy New Year, and we will go through the formal agenda in so much as I'll ask for apologies and declarations of interest, and then the meeting is going to be adjourned. I've got that right, Chief Exec? So I'll, Mr. White, if we have the apologies, please.
Thank you, Mayor. We have apologies for this afternoon's meeting from the following members, who are all actually on the Teams meeting link. So it's Councillors Blackman, Bridgewater, Casbolt, Mann, Saxby, Wakeham and Watts. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. And as for declaration of interest, as I'm the only county councillor on the West Devon Borough Council, I just for your information, with advice from the monitoring officer, I've signed a request for dispensation, which enables me, if I wish, to talk about things, because obviously I'm being county and a borough councillor. So that's just for clarity. I now intend to adjourn the meeting. Do I need to propose and second that? Recommend an adjournment.
I'm happy to second an adjournment of this meeting.
And we're going to adjourn it for half an hour, so the meeting proper will start at about 2:35. All right, so 25 to 3. All those in favour, please show.
That's clearly carried for an adjournment.
Thank you very much. We'll go into adjournment. Thank you very much, and for anybody watching, I'm reconvening the briefing on the English devolution white paper, where we will have discussions. We've already gone through the apologies and declarations of interests, so I now formally reopen the meeting. May I hand over to the Chief Executive, please, who will just give us a brief outline about how we should, this meeting will be progressed.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome members. There's a single agenda item for you to discuss this afternoon, which is the English devolution white paper, item number 3. Just to remind members that we provided a package of supplementary information which went out to all of you on Friday. That included a copy of the white paper itself, together with a briefing paper which the District Council Network had produced, a copy of the letter from the Minister for Local Government dated the 16th of December, and finally a joint statement which had been agreed by the 8 Devon district leaders and was issued to the press and public on Friday. So that is the supplementary package of information that went out. Thank you, Madam
So
Mayor.
I'm asking people now whether you have any questions. Could you please raise your hands clearly? So there's Councillor Ball. Oh, sorry, Leader.
If I could make a statement, please.
Sorry, Leader. Yes, please make a statement. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and Happy New Year to everybody. I would just like to say on this that the Chief Exec and myself have been working throughout the Christmas break. My last phone call came in the afternoon from a leader of one of the unitaries on Christmas Eve afternoon, and then we started again on the 27th of December. So the Chief Exec and I have only had the bank holidays off, and I would like to thank him and Stephen Wolford from Mid-Devon for all the work that they have done on this when they should have been enjoying a family Christmas break, which councils always have. But unfortunately this year it's not worked out that way. So I attended a Devon Districts Forum meeting on the 20th of December, think about then, 18th, 19th, on the 20th of December, where it was decided that the Devon districts would all call for a meeting in the first week of the new year to be able to reply to the paper, the news that Devon County Council wanted to be a single unitary council. So we agreed that at that meeting. Paul Arnott from East Devon was still the chair then. So on the 3rd of January, I took over the chair, as it works rotationally on the alphabet going backwards. For any of you who can't work out how West Devon comes after East Devon, they go backwards on the Devon Districts Forum. So for this year, and it's done on a yearly basis, as we know. So in that meeting, we then came up with the joint statement that was signed by all 8 of us and was issued on Friday afternoon. And that was also sent out to media, etc. In that meeting, it was a little hot in the kitchen at times. It took 2.5 hours to get agreement on that statement for us to go forward. We did support, as districts, all of us, that we would support Plymouth in trying to go it alone. But we know in reality that may not be the case because it does not meet the numbers as stated. But as districts, we would support Plymouth in what they wanted. As at that date, I might add, because things are changing daily. So I will add, at that time on Friday afternoon, with the knowledge that we had, we made that statement. So it then comes back that all of the meetings will be held. South Hams and West Devon are going first today. I think there's 2 on Wednesday, and then the rest of the districts, along with Plymouth City, Torbay, Devon itself, and I think Cornwall, will all have their extraordinary meetings to comply with the 10th of December deadline set by government. That 10th of December deadline is for councils to express how they feel about what is being wanted to achieve, and councils can send letters of their views to the minister, but they have to be there by the 10th of January. We also know that as districts, we all support the strategic mayoral combined authority. No, we don't all support it. There was 2 that were against, principally against having an elected mayor at that time. But we knew that we were all bringing it back to our own meetings, and some views may change. But in principle, that we support the Cornwall, Plymouth, Devon and Torbay being one strategic authority. It makes sense. It's logical. Whether it happens or not remains to be seen. The Cornish have been very vocal in their views and in the press, etc. But that is not for us. That is higher tiers above us. We have no influence whatsoever on it. And that will go to the Minister, Jim McMahon,
come through
for his opinion. Ursula, I think you might have your microphone on. So we today are just going to go through and discuss the views that we have as a council and what we would hope for. And there is a form of recommendations that we can use, but we may change them. And, you know, I will be happy to do that if it is in the best interests of our residents, because primarily they are our main concern. Our other main concern is our staff, and I would like everybody to be as supportive and positive as possible with our staff. We know that our staff all have mortgages and bills to pay, etc. And if they're worried about what may be coming down the line, we need to be able to support our staff and reassure where necessary. I would like to thank the staff in advance, because this is going to be an extra bit of work that we truly don't need, because I would like to see West Devon committing itself to the job that we do best, which is serve our communities. I would be asking all of you to be doing that as well, serving your communities that you're elected to do. I may need a bit more help doing that, and I hope my fellow ward member will be able to pick up on some of it, and my deputy councillor Renders will also be picking up on some of this, because this is an issue that is moving on an hourly basis, I think I could almost say now, and it is moving very, very quickly. Our next meeting at the Devon Districts Forum is on Monday, the 13th of January, after we know what has gone forward. We won't have any answers by then, but we just need to discuss the next steps. So on that basis, I'm and the Chief Exec, we are happy to take questions views, recommendations if they don't like what they see, and things like that. So the basis of the sheet of paper that you've got is following on from the statement that was released. If you compare the two, there's not much difference. I have singled out a plain English award that we don't purport to do anything. It's the end of the second paragraph that it is remote from the communities it serves. We don't purport to do anything. That's not plain English. Having worked for the Abbey National as long as I did, they always won plain English awards for their leaflets, and it's always made me look at documents in plain English. So that's enough from me. I would now be really interested to hear from all of you as to what your views and our way forward, please. Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Leader. Councillor Ball.
Thank you.
Excuse me, before I start, I can hear, can members please check that watching, please check that your microphones are off, because I'm hearing the odd little squeak. So I wouldn't like you to say anything and it'd be blasted over. So can you just check that your microphones are all muted? Thank you very much. Councillor Ball.
Thank you.
And also, Councillor Ball, because the microphones, if you wish to sit, that's perfectly all right. I appreciate your standing, but the purpose of this is communication, and the way these microphones are set up, it's possibly easier when you're sitting down.
I think my voice is loud enough.
Well, as long as it works for the IT, Councillor Ball, thank you very much.
I'm sure they'll tell me if it isn't. Before I ask my question, may I raise a point of order? When we get on to debate, our constitution says that we can only speak once on a subject matter, on an individual proposal. Is it possible that you have discretion to suspend that, because this is quite an important item, and I wonder if it's possible that we all might be able to respond, when we get into debate several times.
Madam Mayor, I would be happy to propose that, unless Councillor Ball's actually proposing, and I'll second. But we'll ask the monitoring officer to look at the exact point of our constitution. May I just ask, though, that it is not abused, because I'm not having repeat and repeat from everyone.
Thank you very much, Leader. Yes, as Mayor chairing this meeting, I don't want repetition. I don't want it to get unsavoury and nasty, and I will suspend the meeting should that happen. I don't believe it will, but I'm just putting my, just stating it. Monitoring Officer, are we good to just suspend?
Madam Mayor, yes, as there are over half of you present, you can suspend standing orders if you wish.
Right. All those in favour will have a show of hands. Yeah, that's NEMCOM.
Thank you. And that's clearly carried to waive the, in effect, one bite of the cherry in debate rule. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be succinct to the point and no repetition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. It's an important point. My question relates, I guess, in broad in sharp terms, the potential boundary review. So a number of years ago, we had a boundary review where our wards were tweaked. Actually happened for the county council as well. One of my concerns about this proposal for going to a unitary is the effect on our communities. When I was a county councillor, it took 45 minutes to drive from one corner of my division to the other. And obviously the rural nature of our community, I guess two questions, bringing it into trying to be focused. One, what's the process of any potential boundary review in the light of a new looking authority? And secondly, how will that potentially affect our community? We have some semi-urban communities, we have a lot of rural communities. So 2 questions in one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Ball. Chief Exec, would you like to take that? And Leader, if you want to add something, if necessary. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Chair. So we are in uncharted territory, I think it's fair to say. In the past, all local government reorganisation proposals since 1974 have been ones that have been based upon individual proposals in individual places. And they have been dealt with accordingly. And as part of that process, the Boundary Commission has been involved as appropriate. The White Paper makes reference to the role of the Boundary Commission. I know that we are expecting further advice from the government very soon, actually. In fact, maybe even later today or tomorrow. The government minister responsible has indicated that there will be a webinar tomorrow about local government reorganisation. It may be that we'll find out more details there. But at this point, I don't have any more detail than what the White Paper says. And I can't really speculate on how our communities will be affected. I mean, the role of the Boundary Commission is to ensure equality of representation. So they are always seeking to balance the numbers of electors with the elected representatives to make sure that across a particular administrative area, people are equally and proportionally represented. So a role that they do exceptionally well. So I've got no doubt whatsoever that at the appropriate time and in the appropriate way, they will be involved in the process.
Thank you. Councillor Cheadle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A statement and a question, if I may. The statement is, reading this piece of paper that we've been given this afternoon, it's clearly been a difficult piece of paper to write because at one stage it says we recognise entirely the direction of travel the government wants to go. We'll work to help them get there. And then it says, we thoroughly disagree with everything you've said. I understand that it's been a difficult paper to write, but I just wonder how it will be received by the ministerial waste paper basket when it arrives. But my question is, this week the government have decided on the social care issue not to get on with it, but to take a considerable length of time to consider how best to do it. Actually, that's disappointed a lot of people that wanted them to get on with it, but nevertheless, they have said that they were not going to rush this decision. They will take until, I think, 2028 before coming to a conclusion. And I would suggest we might weave that somehow into our letter to say, why are you rushing this decision? Because they clearly are imposing a solution without due consideration when it comes to local government, but they're not doing that for another issue of our moment, which is the social care issue. So I think we might draw those two strands together if we could somehow.
Not sure there was particularly a question for me to respond to there, Councillor Cheadle. I think it was perhaps a bit more rhetorical than an actual question. But the
question was, can we draw those together and make some reference to them in our
You absolutely can if as a council you wish to. In terms of the first bit, I think you can agree with principles and still recognise the problems with details. That's a question for the council to decide upon this afternoon. If it gets put as a formal proposal, then of course it's considered in that way. Thank you.
Councillor Greenbury-Pullen.
Thank you. So my concern is really around safeguarding our communities. I'm really concerned about, well, first of all, I think it's clear that devolution is going to happen. How that happens, I believe, has to be fed into by our communities. And a really serious concern based on the current government and how what I perceive as a fairly vacant manifesto has led into actions that are seen generally not supported by the general public. There are lots I could go into, which I won't. It does raise concerns with me about where and how these new Unitarian authorities are going to be funded. One of the biggest issues that I see, and there are many, but one I just use as an example, as Councillor Cheadle used one, is actually what are we going to do with our SEND children? What's happening to our education system? Currently, we have a safety valve in process, which is looking at cutting significant funding to our children who have significant need. Over 9,000 registered and potentially 20,000 to be registered. What is going to happen in inverted commas, a streamlined authority, which the communities of our local authorities have had no say in deciding upon? How are we going to walk forward knowing that we are doing the right thing with the right, with the correct Unitarian approach when people haven't fed into that and we don't know what funding is coming into those authorities? My main concern is the welfare of the people of our communities. I would like to also add, just briefly, that I think we've got significant support from our officers, and to question how many of those people will retain in employment with the expertise and the wealth that they bring to us as a unified approach to our communities is really concerning me. So big questions to be answered, and I think a lot more community voice.
So if I could, Madam Mayor, I'm only going to answer one bit of this, which is a view about public services. I think it's absolutely clear that there's a huge need for national government to properly fund local government services. It's absolutely clear that there's a significant lack of funding for all of the major social care functions in this country. Children's services, adult services, SEND, they all need proper funding, and that is a responsibility of national government. I think it's unfortunate that the white paper as published seems to suggest that there's lots of money in efficiency savings in the sector which could be released from reorganisation. I'm not sure that is the case, and recent experience in parts of the country suggests the opposite, but I would return to the key issue, which is one of core funding for core services, and the white paper will not satisfy that issue. Could I say one more thing, Madam Mayor? I'm conscious that I do not want to be drawn into giving my views and opinions in this meeting, and I think questions probably ought to be focused on ones of clarification about the white paper. And then members can say whatever they want, of course, in terms of debate. But it's not for me to say what I think. It's for you as elected representatives to represent West Devon. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, that's very helpful. So members, I was going to say that we can leave things for debate, but be very specific with your questions. We've got Councillor Daniels, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to reiterate what Councillor Cheadle said about the negativity in this letter. I really think we need to add a bit of positivity to it as well, because as we've said, we know that the direction of travel is devolution, and we are going to have to change, and it reads as if we're going to stay as West Devon Borough Council come what may. So I would like to see some reference to us working closely with other districts to form an appropriate form of devolution across Devon as a rural county. I think that would be much better for our residents, and also it will keep democratic decision-making more local. So, and I think, but it would show that we are responding to devolution and the need for devolution. And I don't really favour one huge strategic authority across Devon and Cornwall, as it would potentially make local representation very difficult. Thank you.
So thanks, Councillor Daniel. I think we are moving into debate here rather than questions. There are two other members who have their hands raised in terms of asking a question. Can I just clarify? Is that a question of clarification? If it's more of a statement, I think we should move into. Right. Okay. Right. Thank you, Councillor Jarry.
Councillor Mott. Councillor Mott.
Thank you, Mayor. I will try and make it as a question. I'm just reading through the Minister of State's letter, and I'm interested to see that it says that the government's long-term vision is for simpler structures which make it much clearer for residents who they should look to on local issues, with fewer politicians able to focus on delivering. So I'm just curious as to how they envision that working with fewer people able to represent the local residents, and what impact this is going to have on the town and parish councils. Are they expected to take on more responsibilities, bearing in mind that most of them are doing this as unpaid volunteers, and given the work that they are then expected to carry out, how are they going to be funded for that? Because obviously raising the money through the precepts is an unfair burden on the residents to be able to carry that extra funding and extra responsibility at that real local level. And I'm just concerned really on how they feel that fewer politicians will be able to deliver for residents on that local level and give them that voice that they need to feel heard and taken account of.
So I think there might have been a question in there somewhere. So I think
there was. My question was really about the impact on the town and parishes, yes, and how they are expected to carry that burden going forward of extra responsibilities.
That's the bit I'll reply to, Councillor Mott. I think it would be good to move into debate pretty quickly, actually, if that's okay. But in terms of that specific point, the example of previous reorganisations has been one in which the towns and parishes have continued. They're unaffected by the structural changes. In fact, there are examples of where unitary councils have been created, and indeed new town or parish councils have been created as well. So certainly I think that that is most likely to be the outcome of any programme of reorganisation. Of course, when you remove one level of government and create others, the responsibility shifts, and I think it's clear that the white paper sets an ambition to move some responsibilities from central government to strategic combined authorities. In turn, if there are no district councils, then some of the functions will be carried out by unitaries, and it's to be expected that others will fall on towns and parishes. That's absolutely been the experience in other areas, Cornwall and Somerset, for example, where the unitary process has led to a shifting and resorting of some of those responsibilities over time. And towns and parishes have taken on more of the responsibilities that were previously ones that the districts had delivered. So I hope that helps in terms of answering your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Leader?
I was just going to give another couple of answers to that. The question about the mayor. The Minister has said, and Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, the Right Honourable, has said that people understand what a mayor is, but they don't understand what a councillor is. And they have this belief that we'll all know to go to a mayor, but we don't necessarily know that you've got, Councillor Ewings in whatever ward. They think that the public don't understand that. That is not mine to give an opinion on. That is what their view is. Also, I'm going to ask Councillor Moody if he could forward an email to all members from DALC this morning, talking about the impact it will have on towns and parishes. You should have received it from the Deputy Assistant to the Town Clerk this morning in your Town Council emails.
I don't have
Oh, right,
members,
okay. So we will get that sent out because it will help you look after your parishes. That's all I was going to say, Madam Mayor.
No, that's absolutely fine. I'm just going to make an autocratic decision now. It's 3:15 and I propose that we go into debate. And Councillor Moody, you've got first dibs there because you...
Happy to second that, Madam Mayor.
Oh, right, yeah, thank you.
You need...
Oh, right, all those in favour? We're going to debate.
That's carried to move to debate.
Right, okay. Councillor Moody.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to make a statement. I joined West Devon Borough Council and also Tavistock Town Council as and others who've joined our council have done for the same reason, for looking after our residents and representing them properly. My concerns over a Devon unitary, a single unitary, rushing to impose a single unitary in Devon risks negative outcomes for our residents, and that's my major concern. District councils need more time to explore alternative models that prioritise community needs and maintain local identity, because that's the most important thing for us, is that we can support and represent our residents. And I think the risk of a single unitary, it reduces local representation, leaving some of our rural communities underserved. It will centralise services and may overlook Devon's demographic and our urban areas, our Dartmoor area, our country areas, and our coastline. I think that a multi-unitary model of collaboration with other district councils is the way to go, but we can't do that in 5 minutes. We need more time to do that. Also, the most important thing is that we've got to have thorough public consultation to understand how our residents feel, rather than being railroaded into a decision that affects them. And I think that if we do careful financial modelling with other district councils to see how best we work together, and we could implement a scheme that's agreeable to many of them, that would avoid disruption and would also save costs at the same time. You know, we currently have a situation with South Hams where we share services. Now, there are lots of models that we can develop, financial models, and I think we need time, and I don't know how we can include an extension of time into our recommendation, and the support that we should be supporting district collaboration. And also, as I say, we need to have a comprehensive public engagement. So that's my statement. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moody. Councillor Jury.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Moody. I agree with much of what you said. My concern, however, is that the type of approach that you're putting forward, which is sensible and considered, is not going to be possible under the white paper as it exists at the moment. In talking, I think, about this proposal, the most important sentence in the paper that is in front of us is the start of the 5th paragraph, where it says the objective must be to get this right for our residents and businesses. And I'd add to that cohort our staff as well. But definitely, you know, we have got to look out for our residents in all this and get the best result that we can out of the proposal that is being put forward for our residents. And I firmly believe that that's what's behind Devon County's considerations as well. I think Devon is looking at a situation where Plymouth is not within the discussion at the moment, at least formally, where Exeter has decided to almost declare UDI and set up its own unitary. And I think Devon sees a situation potentially where it is left to pick up all the pieces around Devon, form them into a unitary council, which will have no economic centre and not really any way of raising significant amounts of income. So I think that is one of the things that is at the heart of Devon's approach to this. I think it's also very clear that future funding, strategic funding, will come through the combined authority with a mayoral authority, spread over the entire peninsula, as I see it. And I think, you know, that could be one good element that comes out of this, that we do get a significantly sized area that talks with at least one voice on the face of it, and that has some funding that comes to it, albeit with a mayor, which I know a lot of us don't support. So I can see the position from Devon's point of view. I'm not sure that a unitary in Devon is on the cards or is what is intended. I'm pretty sure that Councillor McInnes's comments were about the future in Devon would be of unitary councils, however many might make that up. But I do think that one of the things that we need to recognise here is that if we go against this, and I've every reason to support the recommendations that are in this paper, and I would happily do so. But I think we have to have the rider with that if we just stand there like King Canute trying to roll back the tide, we're going to be swept away. And I do think that we need to find a way of engaging at the highest level with government at an early stage to try and drive the debate and to try and drive the organisation that will eventually be put in place within Devon and within the South West Peninsula. So it's all a bit difficult, I think, but I can quite understand why Devon is going this way. And I think we should try and be positive and grasp it, because I don't think we'll be able to fight it. And I'm very aware that might sound like running up the white flag. I think it's quite the opposite. I think it's trying to make the best possible result out of the hand that has been dealt to us, because I don't think it's going to go away, and I don't think we're going to have the time to deal with it. So I think members should reflect on some of those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jury. Councillor Oxborough.
Thank you, Mayor. I've heard what Councillor Moody has said and Councillor Jury has said, and I have to agree with both of them. This is being railroaded from central government. We're being rushed to agree to something, and there has been no time whatsoever to consider it properly. The impact this is going to have on our local residents and our local delivery of local services, and on the staff and the organisations that deliver them, is going to be astronomical. It's going to be devastating for some people. I think, for example, a practical example will illustrate the change that we're going to see here and how it will degrade what we're able to achieve. Back at the end of November, I received an email from a parish councillor about the state of the Mary Tavy churchyard, which is currently maintained by West Devon Borough Council. I contacted the officer in question who deals with that area, and he was out of office, but as soon as he came back into office, he responded to me, and we agreed that we would meet this Thursday at 9 a.m. with the works manager in order to review the situation and come up with a resolution. Now, is that going to be possible in the future? That kind of local responsive representation and effective action taking? I very much doubt it. This is not going to improve services for local people, it's going to degrade them. So the question is, what do we do about it? As Councillor Jury said, we can't run up the white flag. As you know, I've always been one who's up for a fight, and I believe we have to fight in an intelligent way to shape this that's going to produce a result that's in the best interests of the local residents for West Devon Borough Council and other associated areas around us, because we're not the only ones affected. I'm aghast at the idea that we have a government that's operating on the basis of dictatorship, telling us what we're going to do, giving us no chance, no time, no possibility of really considering what's happening in detail and working out what the full implications are going to be. We're being railroaded, and that is fundamentally wrong. And I shall oppose that in other ways, but I know for here and now we've got to come up with a way of responding to this. And what we've got in front of us is an excellent framework, and we need to just tweak it a little bit to reflect the views of the other members present. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Oxborough. Councillor West, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm in support of this letter. I think we have timelines we have to adhere to. I appreciate other colleagues' concerns about there are other issues involved in this, but we've got a deadline of the 9th. We need to get this done. We need to get this in. We have not got the detail yet, so even if we were to go ahead and say, OK, we could put Devon into 2, maybe 3 units and that, we don't need to have that detail. All we need to do is raise the possibility that there is an alternative to a larger Devon. I would argue against what Councillor Jury is saying on the basis that at the moment Devon County is not working. I'm sorry, I have parish councillors screaming at me, can you please get in contact with Highways, because our residents are saying to us, well, you're ineffectual, you cannot Devon highways down here to do potholes, that sort of thing. So I appreciate that in some circumstances they do turn up, but I can assure you in the case of my 2 wards, they do not, and they haven't for the last 12 to 18 months. Devon, as it stands as a county, is not fit for purpose. We just have to look at social care, education, SEND, and the thought to me that a bigger area is going to solve our problems, I'm sorry, is totally a fallacy. You know, we talked about the fact that travelling from one area to another area is 45 minutes. Well, imagine travelling from Great Torrington over to Lyme Regis or Sidmouth. It's too big and it will not be responsive to our needs. So it is not the best way forward geographically, as it won't be responsive. And I think the idea that elections should be abandoned this year does not represent really where we are within Devon County, and the fact that, you know, part of the process, we talk about, yes, we want public involvement in this. If we take out those elections next May, this coming May, then actually you're taking out that involvement, because at that point, people within Devon can have an opportunity to say whether they agree with this or not, potentially. So, for me, this letter says what it does. It's not perfect. We could tinker around with it, but we have a deadline we need to work to. And I'm sorry, I think our officers and leaders have spent enough time trying to get something together which does the job that we want it to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kimber.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to make a couple of points. The first one on rural issues. The devolution proposals suggest that too many decisions affecting too many people are made by too few. And in my view, this will be precisely the result of a large strategic combined authority. Councillors in a strategic combined authority will inevitably be more remote from their local communities and will have less understanding of rural issues, including the specific impacts of rural deprivation. My second point is on more vulnerable residents. So the white paper says the changes will ultimately lead to fewer politicians and a more efficient state. But this assumes politicians are not providing support to their local communities. I mean, as we know, nearly every service has moved online. Post offices, banks and shops have closed. Vulnerable residents have very few people who will listen to them in a face-to-face or human-to-human conversation. And councillors, like us, are still available to represent our most vulnerable residents. And these proposals for fewer politicians will leave many people with no one to help them. I think our primary concern should be for our residents and in particular, our vulnerable residents. I'm sure the government has not forgotten these people, but it will be reassuring to know what provision will be made for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kimber. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to start by saying I agree with a lot of the comments that have been made by colleagues across the room. But I think it's really important that we just step back for a minute, because I think this is a very difficult paper for us. The white paper, the English devolution white paper, is a very difficult and complex paper for us to discuss. And I'm aware that we're doing it in a public forum and that many members of the public who may be listening to this or catch a briefing on it afterwards may well be very confused. So I just wanted to sort of set out a few key things here. So the first is that the majority of this paper, I think we would probably agree with across the room, and I would be interested in people's views, because the main thrust of the paper is about devolution. It's about making sure that after many decades of local government funding being eroded, that finally more money is invested locally. We know that in the UK there's a huge gravitational pull towards London and that the regions often don't get a shout in. Anything that breaks that down and means that our local residents, our local communities get enough funding, to my mind, is a good thing. And to have more accountability, more power and more funding locally is a good thing. However, moving on, what makes this a really difficult paper to discuss coherently is that there's an overall message that I think we could probably agree with about more power and more funding locally, which is then undermined by a slightly cobbled together idea about how we get there, what the journey is, and whether the journey is via unitary authorities and what size those unitary authorities are. So what I would really be arguing for is that as West Devon, we make the argument that we're in favour of devolution, we're in favour of more funding, but that we need considerably more time and a proper process to work out how that will deliver for Devon, and particularly for us, for the people of West Devon. So just to finish with, I think it's important to characterise what's so special about Devon. So recently I discovered that the meaning of the word Devon is actually deep valleys. Whether you look at various different archaic languages, Devon comes from the idea of deep valleys. But we're not just a county of deep valleys. We're a county with 2 moors. We're a county with very varied coastlines, some which are incredibly affluent and others which are really struggling. We are a really heterogeneous county, and I'm talking about the whole county, I'm not talking about the county council. So I think when we read the white paper, we see a sort of half thought out indication from the government about strategic authorities will probably need to be 1.5 million. That unitary authorities will probably need to be about 500,000. But I think in Devon we have a special case to make that we need to take account of our rural and very specific heterogeneous geography and what that means for people and how we deliver services to people. So I think we should be making a 2-point statement. One, which is that we're in favour of more power locally and more devolution, but that we absolutely need more time to work this out for the people of Devon. And the corollary of that is we do not want elections to be postponed because we have to make sure we've got the best political mandate to take this through over the coming years. So I'm sorry that that's quite a long statement, but I really wanted to try and set out some of that bigger picture. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that wasn't very long and drawn out. I think it was very articulate, actually. So thank you very much. Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Trusted me to have to follow that. It was an excellent summary, Councillor Elliott. Well done. And I fully support what you're saying. I think there's 2 things, isn't there? We're concerned about the democratic impact of the process. It's been said a number of times that it feels rushed because it is. And we need to find a way of influencing that and seeing if we can put the brakes on that and slow that process down so it can be done thoroughly and properly, which is the point that you made very well. And I think the other issue is around funding. We all recognise that those of us who have been here longer than others know how difficult it's been over years of continual kind of degradation of funding from central government. And I'm not making a political statement with that. That's a matter of fact. And, you know, the promise of more funding is there if we go down this route. But there's no substance to that promise. And I'm not being overcritical of that. That is true. And I think, you know, if we're honest, successive governments have overpromised and underdelivered. And I think, you know, we need to find a way, one, of slowing the process down so it can be done properly and democratically, but 2, being able to put ministers' feet to the fire to actually pin them down on what that funding looks like and the impact positive impact it has on our communities, and other members have pointed out that difference between, you know, delivering services in cities in comparison to ours. So just wanted to make that. I think those 2 points for me are the nub of what we're going through, plus what Councillor Elliott said, of course.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor Greenberry-Pullen, did you want to add something? Have you got?
Yeah, thank you. I would just like to say that I agree with a number of comments that have been made, and it's good to hear the council and my colleagues are all primarily, most of us, looking at on similar facts, considering similar facts, and presenting, I think, important questions to raise. I think just sort of supporting what my colleagues have said, what concerns me is, and we've just heard about this, is you look at the population of the area, and we're talking approximately 1.8 million people, roughly speaking, but it's 1.8 million people, Cornwall, Devon, Exeter, Torbay, roughly. Look at the huge geographical area that our NHS has to cover, that our social care workers have to cover, if we actually have any funding for social care, which currently doesn't look like it's going to be that extensive, that our SEND individuals are going to need to be covered by, that our transport services are going to have to deliver to cover as well. And you compare that to a city area, an urban, a metropolitan area, it just does not make sense that we get a definitive statement on how this Unitarian Authority should look, or this collective of Unitarian authorities should look, without, as everyone has primarily said, without the full consultation of the public and time to think that through, because there's nothing more important than hearing our residents and our communities' voices and actually looking to instill that we represent that in a debate and a discussion, and that we see democracy in place. It feels like there is no democracy because we have to look, as we've just heard, at the rural, the metropolitan, the urban divisions within this huge area that we're talking about, with a relatively small population.
Thank you. Councillor Renders.
Thank you. I'm just scribbling bits out here because I'm very conscious of the fact that I'm not going to try and repeat everything that everybody else has said. I think there's some praise that needs to go here to both the leader and chief executive, and very much to the staff involved for the whole of West Devon. I know it was mentioned earlier on, but to give up the amount of time that they've had to give up and the amount of work that has to be done and is having to be done to actually push this through, I think deserves special praise. I've written down here, and it's been mentioned again, the uniqueness of West Devon and of Devon, and Holly touched on that I've written down as well, the size of it, to get to the population that they want. It's huge geographically. Geography was touched on again by, over the other side of the room, Jane, and also we are incredibly rural, and our age demographic is quite old, really. So there are all these special things that need to be in there. I also wrote down that I'm very much in favour of the paper in front of us, and I think that which was touched on over this side again, the amount of time that's needed, really, I feel it's being rushed into, and I think we do need a little bit more time. I know we looked at in the paper itself, if we weren't one of the first authorities to move, it would give us a little bit longer, and I think we need to push that into that note to say, can we not be one of the first? But if that buys us a couple of years, then fantastic. So I'm not going to reiterate what everybody else has said, but thank you as well to the amount of work you put involved in this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that I feel this whole thing is being rushed. I think we're being asked to do this far too quickly. By producing a letter on the 16th of December, the Minister knew that they were going to send it out before the Christmas period, and to be asked to make a decision in early January and for all the councils is just unfair. I think we're here to serve our residents. That's my primary reason for being here, and it's to serve them in the best way possible as an elected member. We all know our patch really well, and our staff serve the residents and businesses well here in West Devon. I think that we have a government who really doesn't understand rural areas, and that we really need a strong voice to make sure that the message gets through, you know, about the difficulties that we face here in delivering services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Moody. Oh, sorry, the leader. Not you. No.
Leader's quite happy to go last, please.
Yeah. Councillor Moody,
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. May I suggest a slight amendment? It seems that we've got an agreement around the table, as it were, that the paper in front of us is acceptable. I would just like to make one slight change, or suggest a change, and it's up to the leader and members and how we go forward, is number 3, which says, will widely consult with its residents, businesses, communities, organisations and town and parish councils once a firm reorganisation proposal is ready for consideration. Could we include in that other district councils as well?
Right, Chief Exec, please.
I think it's probably already covered in another part of the statement, Councillor Moody, but true. Although I think it is explicit in the statement as a whole, but and absolutely there are conversations going on. There are conversations going on between districts. There's conversations going on with colleagues in Torbay, etc., etc. We will, of course, talk to all of our neighbouring councils, Devon County and others, about this issue. So don't worry that it's not going to happen. It absolutely will happen.
Councillor Guthrie, please.
Thank you. Just historically and throughout democracy, how one gets your information out to the general public is complex. And when we say we're going to widely consult and really take this as something that's a big new challenge for local government and keeping feet on the ground, I'm just a little bit concerned about how are we really going to widely consult, because if we did ensure that virtually every resident was aware of some potential changes, then you have a different dynamic. So if you can present it to the central government that we have genuinely widely consulted, then I think that gives a different weight, because often consultation is small. Thank you.
Would anybody like to comment on that?
Well, I think we absolutely support the principle of engagement and consultation. Of course we do. You can only do what you can do within the available legislative framework, and I think we have to be practical about that. We have an imperative, as Councillor Johnson has already indicated, around a letter sent on the 16th of December, which provides a 10th of January deadline for indicating if there are alternative proposals which councils wish to bring forward. So I'm struggling to answer the question really, because we would absolutely support a process which would be one which was thoroughly well considered, where all of our communities across the whole of Devon and Torbay and Plymouth were engaged in a conversation. But the extent to which that happens in a meaningful way will be determined by the timeline which government sets for this, and that is the reality, I'm afraid.
Thanks. Now, Councillor Ewings, I know you're wanting to. Are you wanting to ask something or say something? Because I do have another couple of people. So
that's fine. You
want to wait until the end and then you'll round up. Okay, that's just Councillor West.
Thank you, Mayor. I think there's a bit of an elephant in the room in the sense of the combined authority we've already got. It's already there, it's already in place. We had issues over it because our lack of representation on that, it's very much a Torbay and Exeter show. Plymouth could have joined in, but they decided not to. And I think, for me, it's a case of really, that's there at this point. It's not ideal, but if we've already got that agreement, that should at least put us I feel, out of the running for this priority group. It should put a delay in there because we already have some sort of agreement with the government. So that's one thought from my point of view. The other thought for me is, you know, we know how hard the staff work in West Devon and across South Hams. We are a model authority in terms of two groups coming together and making something which is efficient, in some respects is I can't say world class, but it's well respected across the country. So we know there are models out there. But I think what's being asked of this government shows complete lack of strategic planning. On the one hand, they're expecting us to deliver 1.5 million extra houses across this country. And yet, on the other hand, they're saying, right, we're going to have a reorganisation. And it seems to me the two will just work against each other, and they're asking too much of a limited number of people we've got within our democratic services to deliver that. So I think it is ill thought out on a number of levels, not just in terms of the amount of time we've got to deliver it and that. And I'd like to say that, rest assured, as hopefully Mandy has already said, our leader has already said, and she may repeat again, at district council level, we are working together across this authority and are having input. There are a number of, and I can speak from a Lib Dem point of view, there are a number of Lib Dem MPs as well, which are listening to the districts. I do not know about other MPs. I hope they are listening to it, because through our MPs, we are able to have a voice, because at the moment, we have not got much of a voice. It is Devon, it is Torbay, it is Plymouth having that conversation. But we have an opportunity, hopefully, if we talk to all our respective MPs, to actually get them involved, because they will be able to talk to the Minister as well. So I would urge colleagues from other political parties to make sure they are talking to their MPs and getting our MPs involved to actually raise the issues and questions we've talked about today, because we are stronger together, regardless of what political colour we are, etc. And we need to use our voices, not just at our level, but at MP level as well, to have that conversation. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to say that the amount of investment that was due for Torridge and Tavistock, which has been taken away, which was worked on by many people cross-party and delivered and strongly represented by our West Devon MP, Torridge and Tavistock MP, that a significant amount of work had been done, which has been taken away, which I don't normally comment chairing, but just picking up on that, the fact that the investment has just been pulled away. The Rural Service Delivery Grant has been taken away. We are all rural councillors, and regardless of what political persuasion we are, I know how many hours I work. I know how hard it is and how many people contact you and know you. So there's so much there that I think we must continue to deliver during this time of flux. I think it's really important for us as a council to stay focused and work together for our community. So, as I say, I wasn't going to say anything, but I will say, I have said that. I feel passionate about representing the people. And Chief Exec, I will ask you to give us some reassurance, if you can just think about it, about how you as the Chief Exec and you as the leader, Councillor Ewing, how you are projecting our wishes in all the numerous meetings that you have. I mean, clearly we've picked up a lot about it, but if you can just think about that, and then I'm going to have Councillor Ball, and that you're the end, the last one. All right, Councillor Dexter. I'm very, very sorry. Yes, I crossed you off, actually. I thought you'd spoken. So, mea culpa, and my most sincere apologies, Councillor Dexter. That's, I will admit when I'm wrong. And that's it. You've got a nice big scrub through there. I thought you'd spoken. So, through with your thank you. Yes, thank you very much, Councillor Ball. Councillor Dexter.
I hope it's well worth waiting for. No, I was actually very heartened to hear about all the very united council we've got here, but I did want to say something about the process and make a suggestion. I have been involved in two major reorganisations in my life. One of the dairy industry, in the whole dairy industry in England and Wales, and a number of NHS reorganisations. And the one thing you know about them, this is the same, they are complex. They take people's attention away from the main line. They are expensive, hideously expensive. And I didn't see, I may have not read it quite closely enough, but I didn't see much reference to, if you like, the estimates about how much and who is going to pay. I don't think that we're going to be in a position as a local government to pay for its own dismantling, basically. I would say the way that it's been presented is, I'd use a sort of emotive word, outrageous. And it's like turning the Southwest into the Wild West, where, if you like, the councils are forced to make power bids, land grabs for various bits of Devon. I know I'm being emotive, but that's the way it seems to me. So on the positive side, what I think that we should be coming out is presenting a timescale, proposals for a timescale. The white paper, I believe, makes specific reference to the Devon Combined Authority. So other organisations are seeking to abolish that. But if we're looking for a timescale, allusion has been made to the fact that it's not urgent, that it should be measured, it should be systematic, it should be planned. The worst possible outcome is to rush things like this. It is a recipe for expense, disorganisation and loss of services. So I'm wondering if somehow we could put in our recommendations that we seek not to have it in 2 years. That's just impossible. So finally, I would just like to thank all the work that's been done by officers, leaders across Devon. It's a horrendous, an outrageous proposal, as I said, but I think this council is really being positive, and I commend it for that. Thank you, Mayor.
Right, if anybody has anything... Right, Councillor Ball, I'm sorry, and you so graciously...
Have you ever been at school where the kid next to you copies your work? No. Basically, I was going to bring up the point about finding a way of... the one thing that's come up again and again is how rushed this process is, right? I think we all agree that, you know, something's got to happen, but the way it's being implemented at the moment feels rushed, and Councillor Baxter made that point very well. Dexter even, sorry, my apologies. Can we, through you, Madam Mayor, to the leader, can we modify point 3? I think Councillor Renders hinted at this point when he spoke about implementing something in there, you know, asking for a delay or a break or something to indicate that we can look at this properly. Not that we're being negative about the proposal, but finding some way of wording that to give us time to engage in this process properly. I don't know how we can do that really, but based on what we've got, and it might be we might need to put an interim thing forward to government, but asking if we can come back to that. But I think it's really important that we find a way of representing that point that's been said all around the chamber this afternoon. Thank you.
If I can help, Madam Mayor, the recommendation is a very broad set of words. The most important thing is what you have all said during the debate, and then coming to the recommendation. If you seek to approve that and mandate the leader to write, well, the leader will write, taking account of all of the things that have been said in the chamber. So I don't think it's necessary for us to detail precisely the terms of the letter. I think all you need to do is to agree that the leader has your authority to take forward those thoughts. I think we could be here until about 11 o'clock at night if we try and wordsmith the content.
Thanks. Are there any members? There are several members who haven't said anything. Are there any members that would like to say something? Right, thank you, Councillor Viney.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to understand how the white paper would influence the work of West Devon as a rural borough that has a fantastic opportunity to mitigate the effects of climate change, how any devolution might affect the potential of the great work that we are likely to be able to do through regenerative agriculture in this borough. Not necessarily a question for now, just I would just like it
I'll give you my version of an answer, if that's okay. Well, I think the point that Councillor Dexter made is really pertinent. Any form of reorganisation necessarily takes capacity and essentially will result in an inward focus on organisational structural matters. It's bound to have some impact on service delivery to our communities. But also taking the point that Councillor Elliott made, I think the white paper offers the proposition of devolution of powers and responsibilities and funding to local government as well. So it may be that there are opportunities within the white paper. It may be that there are powers that could be devolved, which might be incredibly beneficial. And I think that's the dilemma you have as members, to try and weigh that balance and see the benefit either side. But I can assure you we're going to be very busy indeed if the government decides to proceed with reorganisation in Devon.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm looking round now, and a quick one, please. Councillor Greenbury-Pullen, thanks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question about inclusion of points, and perhaps you could give me some guidance on this. I can't see where in this response we're asking the key public services what their sense and feelings about devolution feels to them and what it looks like to them, based on potential funding, demographics, etc. And where they sit with that perspective on devolution, because those are the key bodies that our residents will be looking to gain support from. So is that something that should be considered, adding into this, the list of key public services that may want to respond to this as we respond to government?
So I would encourage all of you in your representative roles to encourage everybody who might have an interest to respond. Tell your MPs what you think. Tell your colleagues in your political parties as well. I mean, we're not being invited to specifically comment. The district councils have chosen to do so. We know that one authority potentially is going to make a proposal. It may be that the districts will be able to put together a joint letter which suggests an alternative. I think all of you have said in one way or another that the most important thing is the delivery of services to our communities, and that the communities have their opportunity to have a say in that. But it's about influencing the decision makers in government, isn't it? That's not something we can do directly. It can only happen through parliamentarians being influenced and therefore influencing government. So I think all I would say is that is the route, really. Sorry.
Thank you. I can see no more people wanting to ask questions. So, Leader, if you'd like to sum up, please.
Thank you. It's not in every way a summing up. Some of it I'm going to take my leader hat off and I'm going to be Councillor Ewing's. Some of what I want to say, but I feel that it is all important. Since this letter arrived and since we had the announcement from Devon County Council, no district has had any communication with Devon County Council, and that was at Friday. We have tried to correspond and they have treated us discourteously. They haven't replied, they haven't acknowledged, they haven't apologised, they've done nothing. So it's been very difficult to establish what the county are really after. We have no idea. So we are replying to something that we've got no idea about, which makes it quite difficult. Politically, there may be some people in the room who do know a bit more, but they're not able to share with us yet. I wanted to say, particularly with, and with treating us like that, last Friday we joshed that the Team Devon meeting that should have taken place on Wednesday would. It was cancelled, just like that. That's all we got was an email, it's cancelled, nothing. So it's a little discourteous, to say the least. To answer Councillor Moody's point, and it is stated within the the second paragraph, that all councils should decide collectively what is best for Devon and Torbay. We are all talking to each other on a daily basis almost. We've already had 2 full meetings. We have another one set for the 13th of January to see what did go forward, etc. I just wanted to answer that point. To say a bit more on the point Councillor West made, I would like children's services included in there. They've been in special measures for nearly 10 years, which is really not good enough. We've had children who have gone a whole education now with a service that's been in special measures and still is. We know the send is not effective. It is, the last count that I knew of, it is 97 million in the red again, potentially going to 160 million. Adult social services, that's not great. And we have very vulnerable elderly population in West Devon. We have one of the oldest populations in Devon, in our area. And that was from the work that was done by the Devon Housing Commission that established that. So we really desperately need, and unfortunately, as we all know, there's a 17-mile lump of granite that splits West Devon. It makes it very difficult. You know, when you want carers and things like that, there is the geography that is very unique and very special, but when you need care, it's not quite so great. We need new county councillors to start to remedy and rectify the difficult situation that Devon finds itself in. We have already established a county combined authority. It has been already given £16 million and an extra £1 million to facilitate the administration and setting up of that authority. That was a £1 million gift in inverted commas to help with the starting up procedures, etc. So I can't see us being given a whole heap more of money because that 16 million had to be spent by March of this year. And it has pretty much been spent with projects that were allocated earlier this year. There's been a survey recently from the LGA, and it asked councillors or people to complete a survey on what works well with devolution and unitarisation. I felt it should have asked a subsequent question of what didn't go well, because if it didn't go well, how many millions did it cost? And if you don't all tell each other it didn't go well, how many more millions are going to be wasted while everybody else goes through the same thing of the not went well section? So actually, having our combined authority, relying on that for a couple of years, and then moving into the devolution of, hopefully, Devon, Plymouth, Torbay and Cornwall, we have got a steady ship that will already be running. It will already have its members that run it. And I think we can then learn from mistakes that are going to be made. There is no way that this is going to go perfectly for every council, because nothing is perfect in this world. But if we can learn from some of the mistakes by holding off and not rushing into this, would be far better for the Devon authorities and Devon itself. I am worried that Devon could be seeking this extra money that potentially isn't there because we've already had it. And that does concern me quite a bit. So that is where I would like to end what I would like to say. I think I'm going to ask Mr. White if we can put up some of what we would hope the recommendations could be. Have you got that on there, Mr. White?
In so doing, Leader, there's been reference made to the word tweaks. So I've just made a few tweaks as we've gone. Four in fact, in the order I've got them. Your point yourself, Leader, about remove the word purports. So at the bottom of the second, last word of the second paragraph, just now says it serves. So that was the first tweak. The second tweak was Councillor Jury's about referencing the staff. So I've just tweaked that the objective must be to get this right for our residents, businesses and staff. So added in the words and staff. The third tweak was Councillor Cheadle's point about the social care not taking effect until 2028. So we've put in that social care are not taking effect until 2028. And the final tweak came direct from Councillor Moody with regard to the words other neighbouring councils as the final point at 3. So that's the 4 tweaks I've made. Conscious of that being said, of course, we've got no formal proposal on the table as we speak. It's just we've used the tabled paper as a template to which we've tweaked. But just to re-emphasise, there's been nothing proposed at this time. Thank you.
May I propose this? I'm a little concerned about our... Oh, sorry, that's because I'm looking as well. I can't do both. Looking at further down, please, Mr. White, on recommendation 3. We have the word other neighbouring councils and then towns and parish councils in the very next 4 words. I wondered if that was other neighbouring districts and then towns and parish councils.
Excuse me, Leader. Councillor Jury wants to...
I am for the minute.
Thank you.
With respect, I'm just being a bit flexible here, because...
Thank you. I'm very mindful of what in particular Councillor Elliott said about us reflecting, I think, the good aspects, the positive aspects of the white paper. And I wonder whether there could be some changes to item 1 and item 2 to reflect a bit more positivity. If I can propose, item 1, mandates to the leader to write to the government on its behalf, outlining our enthusiasm for genuine devolution. alongside this council's concerned about the required pace of change.
What's the second bit? That our enthusiasm
Outlining
for
alongside
genuine
this
devolution.
council's concerns about the required pace of change. And then if I may, Mayor, and through you, Leader, item 2 again seems quite negative. I appreciate that it reflects the joint statement issued by the leaders of the 8 district councils. Might that read, support the joint statement issued by the leaders of the 8 district councils throughout Devon, but supporting consultation and engagement that leads to devolution of powers to the region and the establishment of unitary government structures that will benefit the residents and businesses of West Devon and the wider area. I'll email that to you if you want. Let me say it again, Darryl. Support consultation and engagement that leads to devolution of powers to the region and the establishment of unitary governance structures that will benefit the residents and businesses of West Devon and the wider area. And then in the section under that, supports the continuation of democratic...
Excuse me, because we need proposers and seconds and what have you, and this is just getting a little bit unruly. So, monitoring officer, could you just whip us into?
Yes, Chair. Yes, Madam Mayor. You do need a formal proposal. I don't know whether Councillor Jury is proposing it with those amendments. One thing I would suggest or say in respect of those amendments is that you might want to separate out the supporting consultation engagement into a new bullet point, because otherwise it doesn't follow on.
That was my intention.
And also the first bit in one about the concerns, the council's concerns about the required pace for change seems to exclude all the other concerns that have gone before, but that's an observation.
Sorry to intervene, Madam Mayor, but my impression at the beginning of this debate was that the leader was intending to propose this, but it hasn't been formally proposed. I think if the leader were to propose it. No, it wasn't proposed or seconded. I think if it was proposed and seconded, then we would be clear about where we are in terms of our procedures and rules of debate, at which point, of course, you could move whatever amendments you wish to do. So,
I would like to formally propose the original.
Happy to second.
So we now have a substantive motion in front of us in the original form. It's a question then of which of the elements that we've talked through, the 4 tweaks as they were described by Mr. White, whether those are all accepted by the proposer and seconder, were those or not? Right. Okay. Well, in that case, we have the motion without the red pen on it at the moment. And it will need to be...
We need some of the red pen. We don't need all of the red pen.
Right, okay.
Sorry. And Councillor Jury, I did ask you before this if you had anything.
Well, I'm sorry, Leader, but we didn't receive this piece of paper until during the meeting.
Right.
Thank you.
So can I suggest we go back to the point where Mr. White was working through with us the tweaks that had come up in debate. And if the proposer and seconder, leader and deputy leader, could indicate which of those they are happy to incorporate into the substantive motion as we go, then we'll be able to deal with those, and then we can come back to Councillor Jory's suggestions as an amendment to that motion. I think at that point we'll all be clear. So, Darryl.
So in the order...
May I recommend that we actually adjourn again, please? So the Councillor Jury and I and others can maybe talk this through. So
yes.
We're not going...
All those, I was just thinking that this is getting a little bit ungainly. So if we can adjourn the meeting, I will let it be adjourned in 10 minutes. That will give you sufficient time. Members of the public, we're just adjourning for 10 minutes to sort this out. All those in favour?
That proposal to adjourn for 10 minutes is carried. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. let's get this done, and let's hopefully be finished in the next quarter of an hour at the latest. People need to get home.
Madam Mayor, may I also request a recorded vote, please?
Yes. All those in favour?
Happy to second that.
All those in favour of a recorded vote?
Thank you, Mayor. We have the requisite number for a recorded vote. Thank you. Okay. Do you want me to go back through the amendments?
Yes, please. If you just, but this is very important. If you can go through it.
Will do. So the earlier proposed tweaks are unamended. So it still says now it serves, with the additional bits about the staff and the social care not taking effect until 2028 points still in there. The significant changes since the meeting adjourned are to the 3 points at the end of the paper. Namely, at 1, so the addition now is on its behalf outlining our enthusiasm for genuine devolution alongside this council's concerns, including the required pace for change. 2 is unamended, but 3 has also been tweaked to now read community organisations, neighbouring district councils and town and parish councils to help shape an appropriate plan for reorganisation. Now, I understand, Mayor, that that's been agreed by the original proposer and seconder, so that is therefore now part of the substantive motion.
Just for clarity then, your proposer and seconder agreed. Okay, thank you. So we can put this to the vote now? Yes, it's going to be a recorded vote. So are you able to do that, Mr. White? Just give verbal. Okay.
Okay, in alphabetical order, thank you, members. Councillor Ball.
Can you speak clearly, please, Councillor Ball?
My apologies, Mayor. 4.
Councillor Calder.
4.
Councillor Cheadle. Councillor Cunningham.
4.
Councillor Daniel.
4.
Councillor Dexter.
4.
Councillor Elliott.
4.
Councillor Ewings.
4.
Councillor Greenbury-Pullen. 4. Councillor Guthrie.
4.
Councillor Johnson.
4.
Councillor Jewry.
4.
Councillor Kimber.
4.
Councillor Leach.
4.
Councillor Moody.
4.
Councillor Mott.
4.
Councillor Renders.
4.
Councillor Sellis.
Abstain.
Councillor Southcott.
4.
Councillor Vashon.
4.
Councillor Viney. And Councillor West.
4.
Thank you, members. That is therefore 21 votes in favour with 1 abstention.
Right, thank you very much. Members, that was a good discussion. It looks like it's really snowing up there, so can I wish you all a very safe journey, and thank you everybody for your input. There was quite a bit of consensus today, so thank you very much. Take care now.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for the way you handled the meeting.